Namo tassa bhagavatu arahatu samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavatu arahatu samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavatu arahatu samma sambuddhassa. Good evening, everyone, and good morning, everyone. Welcome back to another Dhamma Q&A session. Today is day 21, and we will be looking at the eighth Nidana, what you call by Parisamuppada context, the eighth Nidana, which is the most important, I guess, because this is the cause of our dukkha, which is what we understand by Tanha. So, what is Tanha? Craving. What is craving? So, that is our topic for today's Dhamma Q&A session. So, but we're going to be discussing Tanha in the context of Parisamuppada, and then we are gradually moving towards other teachings, especially other Buddhist teachings about Parisamuppada, the Tanha. So that's our plan today. So if you have any questions, please type in those questions. So I'll be able to answer those questions. Okay, so just to begin the session, I would say our Q&A session, I would like to read two of the very interesting stanzas about Tanha. So this is appeared in the Dhammapada, 153 and 154 verses, which comes under Jaravak. Jara means decay. Aneka jati sansarang sandha vissang anibisang gahakarakang gave santo dukkha jati punapuna. Aneka jati sansarang, through many births. Sandha vissang anibisang, I have wandered on and on. Now this is a thought that was arisen in the mind of the Bodhisattva, especially the Buddha. Gahakarakang gave santo dukkha jati punapunam. Gahakarakang, searching for but never finding, the builder of the house. So according to the Buddha, sansara is a house, and there is someone who is constructing, who is building this house. And the Buddha, as a Bodhisattva, has been wandering, searching the builder of this house. To be born again and again is suffering. So, dukkha jati punapuna, because there is someone who is building this house, there is suffering. So, he has been searching for the builder of this house, sansara. Second part of the stanza, which actually was given in another stanza. Gahakaraka ditthosi punagehang nakahasi sabbate pasuka bagga gahakutang visankitang visankhara gatang chittang tanhanang kai machagati. Now, the most interesting thing at this point in this thought is Gahakaraka ditthosi. The Buddha himself saw the builder of the house builder. So he addressed the house builder. Gahakaraka ditthosi, house builder, I saw you, you are seen. Punagehang na kahasi, because I saw you, you will not build a house again. So house in the sense of another life. So every life, every jati we have is a house. Now you have a house, I have a house. It's not the physical house. It's the house that we have in different jatis. Sansara is the process. So every jati, every life, we have a house. So I could say this house is what we call by Panchakanda, right? 5 aggregates. But now the Buddha is happy sharing this thought with others. Gahakaraka ditto, see house builder, I saw you, you are seen. Punagehan nakahasi, you won't build the house again. You want to build the house again. Not even that. He was going into some details of this house. Sabba te pasuka bagga. All the rafters are broken. So in this house, I have broken all the rafters of this house. Now, if we can break the rafters of one house, that is enough to get into Nibbana, right? Gaha kutang visankitang. Uh, there are some variants. Gaha kutang visankatang. The rich pole destroyed. There in every house we can see there is a rich pole, even from ancient houses to the modern, and the rich pole was destroyed as well. Visankhara gatang chittang tanhanang kaya majjaga. Visankhara gatang chittang visankhara gatang. The mind went to the unconstructed. Now, when we live in a life, so we have sankharas, we have formations to deal with. We all are sankharas. At the same time, we are forming new sankharas as well. So, the state of mind he came as the Buddha was visankhara, not sankhara. It is, of course, we are supposed to be in the visankhara too, right? So, visankhara means the mind has gone to the unconstructed. So after that point, there are no more sankharas being built, being constructed. Sankhara has a couple meanings. I already discussed that under Sankhara, the second link nidana of this same series. So you can go back and watch whenever you are free. So his mind has gone to the unconstructed, visankhara. So it's a very interesting term for the state of mind after when you cross the normal sankharas. Tanha nang kaya majjagati has reached the end of craving. Now this is the place where we want to catch up with. So tanha, craving. So he has reached the end of craving. So whenever you are able to reach the end of your craving, that is the place where we call the unconstructed. Okay, so in this context, you understand Tanha is such a very interesting subject. It is why we are always going through a lot of dukkhas, different dukkhas. If you take a look at a lot of suttas, you can understand how the dukkha was given. There are many ways of explaining the dukkha. Jatipi dukkha, birth is dukkha, jarapi dukkha, and then the decaying aging process is dukkha, and then vyadipi dukkha. Sicknesses are, getting sick is dukkha, and marana, death is dukkha. Apihi sampayogo, the association of the people that we don't like, I would say, being with the people we don't like, we don't want to be, is a dukkha. And pihe vipayogo, separation from the loved ones, is a dukkha. Yampi chang nalabati tampi dukkhang. When we don't get what we want, when we don't see what we want to happen, is a dukkha. And if anyone doesn't understand dukkha up to this extent, the Buddha says, Sankittena panchapadana kanda dukkha. That means clinging to the 5 aggregates is dukkha. Now the problem is, a lot of people think tanha is the activity. Actually, tanha is your Tanha is your, what do you call, the strong attachment, the strong desire towards different things. Even you take Patisampada context or the Chatusatcha, Four Noble Truth context. So the particular activity you are doing with Tanha is Upadana. Now I would give you an example. You are uh, doing grocery. Probably you are doing shopping, and you have put stuff into the shopping cart, but you haven't checked them out yet. Okay, so uh, checking out part is Upadana. So bringing all these items into your shopping cart is Tanha, because this is what you like, but you haven't checked them out yet. But normally, once you uh, put stuff into your shopping cart, you are highly likely, going to check them out. So the greater the craving, more is the frustration, because you know uh, it is the amount of suffering, I would say dissatisfaction and inherent dukkha that we have, because we need to really cut down on our craving. So that's a very simple teaching that we all know. Okay, so let's sort of separate out the main differences of Tanha in the popular context in Buddhism. Now, one very famous context of Tanha is the uh, Tanha in the Four Noble Truths. You all know it is it is given under the second truth. So, Dukkha Arya Satcha, Dukkha Samudaya Arya Satcha, Dukkha Nirodha Arya Satcha, Dukkha Nirodha Gamini Patipada Arya Satcha. That means the noble truth, of suffering. That's the first one, Dukkha Samudaya Arya Satcha. The second noble truth is the noble truth of the cause of suffering, or dukkha. The third one is the noble truth of the cessation of suffering, dukkha. And the fourth one is the noble truth of the path which leads to the cessation of the suffering. So the second truth, which means the cause of the suffering, is tanha. Right? It is. We can discuss that, during the discussion. So this is the main context that we understand tanha. But what is tanha in the Patisamuppada context? This is more important to us because we've been discussing Patisamuppada context. It is a little different. What is it? Let me read for you. And I wanted to quote the sutta called Vibhanga Sutta, the same sutta we picked up for the whole series. Samyutta Nikaya 12.2. Katamacha bhikkave tanha cha ime bhikkave tanha kaya. Now, tanha kaya, it's a class of cravings. Rupa tanha, saddha tanha, gandha tanha, rasa tanha, pottabba tanha, dhamma tanha, ayang uchati bhikkave tanha. What monks is craving? There are these 6 classes of craving. Craving for forms, craving for sounds, craving for odors, smell, craving for taste, craving for touch, craving for thoughts. This is craving in the Patisamuppada context. Now, you may wonder why there is a difference between this whole context of Tanha and the Tanha that we see in the Patisamuppada. Actually, the Tanha, I mean, this is common to all the other Nidanas as well. The Tanha that we see in the Patisamuppada is the process. It's the process of how you are making Tanha. But if you take a look at the tanha in the chatusatcha, especially the second satcha, that tanha is the constructed tanha. So you already created that. So you have kama tanha, bhava tanha, vibhava tanha. So you are then, leading your life continuously, life by life. So it's more likely the constructed process plays. But in the Patisamuppada, it is a theory. It is how things happen. Okay, this is how things happen. So whenever you are craving for your sights, sounds, smells, touch, and then I would say taste and your thoughts, then you are, this is how the tanha is being created. Craving is being created, right? So when the craving is already created, it can be a part of a kama tanha, bhava tanha, vibhava tanha. Kama tanha means craving for the sensual things, which means now it has already been constructed. And bhava tanha means craving for becoming, which means uh, you have created good bad karmas so that you are now ready to be reborn again. And then vibhava tanha means you sort of don't believe in a next life. So you believe in annihilism, I would say nihilism. So you don't believe that a next life exists. So it is also a tanha because you don't believe in karma at that point, especially because you have to stop karma. But a lot of people, they get into this idea that there are no karmas and don't worry about it. There's no place to experience my karma. So then you don't have sammaditi. Now, what you need to understand is karma exists. We want to stop karma. But if somebody thinks that karma doesn't exist, so I don't worry about it, that is vibhavata. So it's also a constructed place of craving. So the main difference between the Parisamuppada context and uh, the Chatusatya context of Tanha is that Chatusatya place, the famous context of Tanha is the constructed process Tanha. But in the Parisamuppada, it is the process of, it's the construction process of our tanha, how we create our tanha. We create our tanha through our rupas, our sights, through our saddhas, sounds, through our rupa, saddha, gandhas, which means smells. Then rasas, we create tanha through our different taste. And then we create tanha through our touch, contact. And then finally, we create tanha through our thoughts. So this is how tanha is creating, right? So if we know how this the particular way of how the tanha is being created, then we have a better grasp. We have a better way to handle our tanha, rather than what we're gonna do with our kama tanha, bhava tanha, vibhava tanha, right? There's of course a path which was given by the Buddha, which is called as being the Noble Eightfold Path. But if we know the Parisamuppada, because Parisamuppada is the central teaching of Buddhism, if we know the Parisamuppada, then we are in a better place to handle our existing, our craving that is bothering us on a daily basis. Okay, now there is another context of Tanha that we can see in the teachings of the Buddha. So, in order to discuss that, I want you to read Dhammapada 339 verse. We can find this verse there. Yassa chatting sati sota manapa savana busa maha vahanti dudditting sankappa raga nisita. Yassa chatting sati sota. So, with the 36 streams of craving flowing mightily toward anything pleasing, the person of wrong views is carried on the currents of lustful intent. So, what we have to take from the stanza is 36 streams of craving. So, craving was given in 36 streams in the Dhammapada. You can check this out under the Tanha Vagga, because there's a separate chapter on the craving. So how can there be 36 36 streams of craving? That's an interesting point, right? So so that's a very interesting point, because what we know about this 36 streams of craving is what you call by Chakku Sota Gana Jivha Kaya Mana. And then Rupa Saddha Gandha Rasa. Rupa Saddha Gandha Rasa Pottabha Dhamma. So there are another 6. So each of these what do you call they call it ayatanas, because they are also ayatanas, right? Because senses are okay, but when they become ayatanas, there we can see there rise tanha, or whatever other things. So each ayatana, internal ayatanas, so there are 6 internal ayatanas and there are 6 external ayatanas. So Chakusota Gan Yuha Kaya Mana, Rupa Saddha Gandha Rasa Pottabha Dhamma. So each ayatana that I just said is multiplied by Kama Bhava Vibhava. So that means there are 12. You can multiply 12 by 3, 36. That means if you take any internal or external ayatana, each ayatana has 3 tanha working on it. Let's say I have my eyes, my internal eyes, and then outside what we call external rupas. If I take my internal uh, eye, then my eye is creating tanha in 3 ways, in the format of kama tanha, bhava tanha, vibhava tanha. So also the external ayatana of the particular internal ayatana, rupa. My rupas, let's say the rupa that I'm seeing, because of those rupas, sights or images, I am creating 3 types of tanha. That means rupa ayatana has kama tanha, bhava tanha, vibhava tanha. Let's take another sense faculty, ayatana. Let's take, I would say, chakusota gana, right? Gana is nose. So my gana ayatana, my internal ayatana called gana, because I mismanage my gana ayatana, then I create 3 types of tanha. Kama tanha, bhava tanha, vibhava tanha, because of my gana ayatana. And then rupa saddha gandha. Gandha is the smell, the external object to that particular internal ayatana. My gandha ayatana also creating 3 types of tanha. So kama tanha, bhava tanha, vibhava tanha. So in the same way, you can see each ayatana is creating 3 tanhas. So the number of tanhas will become 36. So this stanza is given in the Dhammapada 339. That's why it says Chatting Sati Sota. So they are given as 36 streams of craving. Tanha is like a current, like a stream. Now, even the Sotapanna, in order to become a Sotapanna process, is also a stream. But this stream is carried us into a lot of problems. Okay, so there are 3 contexts. Tanha, craving in the context of the Four Noble Truths. Tanha in the context of Parisampa. Tanha in the context of 36 streams. That means there are 12 ayatanas, Chakusota Gana Juha Kaya Mana, Rupa Saddha Gandha Rasa Pottabha Dhamma. So each ayatana has to be multiplied by 3 kama tanha, bhava tanha, vibhava tanha. So there are 36 tanha streams. Okay. So any questions so far? I want to ask some questions. I want you to ask some questions so that our discussion will go well. Okay. Now let me, before I sort of detail the tanha in the Parisamvada context, I like to read some of the stanzas that I saw in the Dhammapada. There is a specific chapter for tanha. Okay. Dhammapada, verse number 334. Manujassa pamatta charino tanha vadyati maluvavi. So plavati hurang pala michangva vanasmin vanaro. Now, these stanzas can really teach us the nature of our craving. Sometimes we don't know the nature of our craving. So let's see how our craving works. Manujassa pamattacharino. Manujassa pamattachar. In a man, in a human who is negligent, pamattachari. Tanha vaddati maluavi. Who is malua? Malua is a creeper. Okay? Which means a creeper. Craving grows like a creeper. Now, in what kind of a person uh, can this be witnessed? In a person who is negligent, who has no appamada. This is why I'm always telling you, appamada is very interesting, because the Buddha says it is the highest version of our virtues. Now, Buddha gives us a simile. He was giving a simile with regard to the size of the feet of animals. Now he's asking monks, can you put all the different feet of animals into the foot of an elephant? In the same way, appamada is the highest version of all the spiritual virtues. All the other virtues, be that metta, loving kindness, be that karuna, compassion, be that mudita, unselfish joy, be that upekha, equanimity, all these virtues, be that dana, sila, all the virtues are playing a role, all the virtues are working inside, within appamada. That is why here Buddha alludes that Tanha only works, Tanha only arises in a person who is negligent, who is pamada. So in him or in her, what we can say is that the craving grows like a creeper. The creepers grow very fast. So plavati hura hurang palamichangva vanasmin vanaro. He runs from birth to birth, like he or she is reborn, like a monkey seeking fruits in the forest. Monkeys never get frustrated, dissatisfied. So you're gonna keep finding, the fruits. So in the same way, just as a monkey who is looking for the food, some people, probably like many of us, if we are not into appamada, called diligence, if we are not diligent, if we are diligent, it's okay, then everything is okay. Tanha is not working that much. So the monkey is the example who is searching for the food. This is how the beings are reborn and reborn. Okay, there's a question asked by somebody. What can we say about Tanha for ending suffering, especially for people who are newer to Buddhism? I feel that the attraction to learn it is to end suffering, but this is a craving in itself. Yeah, a very good question. I'll be actually getting to that question during the discussion. Verse number 335, Dhammapada. Yang esa sahate jammi tanha loke visattika. Soka tassa pavaddanti abhivattanga kirana. In this world, sorrow grows in one who is overwhelmed by the wild craving that clings to the senses, just as well-watered grass grows after rain. So tanha looks like it is growing all the time unless we try to do something for the root of the tanha. This is a very interesting stanza, which is I would say 338 stanza in Dhammapada. Yathapi mule anupaddave dalhe chinnopi rukko punareva ruhati. Evampi tanha anusaye anuhate nibbattati dukkhamidam punapuna. Just as a fell tree grows again, if the roots are unharmed and strong, suffering sprouts again and again until the tendency to crave is rooted out. So we have to root out our craving. That means it's not like just do something on the surface. We have to get to the bottom of the craving. It's like a tree that somebody is going to cut a tree just not from the root. You have to cut it from the root. Tanha is like that. So, tancha disva, okay, tancha disva latang jatang mulang panyaya chindata. Now, what did the Buddha ask us to do for tanha? Seeing that creeper has sprouted, tanha has sprouted, use insight, use panya, wisdom, to cut it at the root. Now, this is clear. When we look at the higher teachings of the Buddha asks us to use panya, wisdom, to root this out. Use anicca dukkha anatta understanding to every event, so that we are not into kama tanha, bhava tanha, vibhava tanha, those higher levels. But if we look at this from the Patisamuppada context, then we are not, even though we are, using 12 ayatanas, but we are not so much into these ayatanas. We are using them in moderation. So we are just fine. Tasinaya purakkata paja parisappanti sasova bandito. Sangyojana sangha sattaka dukkha mupenti punappunam chiraya. Dhammapada 342 stanza. Surrounded by craving, people run around like frightened hares, rabbits, held by fetters and bonds. They suffer repeatedly over a long time. So there are 10 Sangyojanas fetters. We know them. Sakkaya Ditti, Vichikiccha, Silabhata Paramasa, Kamaraga, Patiga, Ruparaga, Ruparaga, Manutta, Chaviccha. So these are the 10 fetters that have fettered us in the samsara. Sakkaya Ditti means what you call by personality belief, I exist belief. Vichikiccha means doubts about 8 places. The number can change, vary in different teachings, contexts. Silapata Paramasa is clinging to rites and rituals. Kamaraga means sensual desire. Patiga is hatred. And Ruparaga is desire for Rupa worlds, material worlds. Aruparaga means a desire for Arupa worlds, immaterial worlds. Mana means conceit. Uddacha means restlessness, and Avijja means ignorance. So these are the 10 Sangyojanas. It is normally said that when you become a Sotapanna person, you get rid of the first 3, and then when you become a Sakadagami person, the second stage of spirituality, the spiritual attainments, that person gets rid of not 100%, but just attenuates, sort of, neutralize the effects of the both Kamaraga and Patiga, sensual desire and Patiga, but still they are sort of dormant. And when you become a non-returner anagami person, you get rid of Kamaraga, Patiga completely, fully. And then when you become an Arahan, you're going to get rid of Ruparaga, Manutta, Chaviccha. And this is a very famous teaching. But what are the 7 Sanghas? So 10 Sangyojanas, 7 Sanghas. Tanha, Ditti, Mana, Koda, Avijja, Kilesa, Duccharita. These are the 7 Sanghas that we are so much bounded by. And also the Buddha says in stanza 354, Sabba danang dhamma danang jinati, sabba rasang dhamma rasu jinati, sabba rating dhamma rati jinati, tanhakkayo sabba dukkhan jinati. The gift of Dhamma surpasses all gift. So if you want to consider to offer something, give Dhamma. Dhamma dana is the highest. Sabba rasang dhamma raso jinati. The taste of Dharma surpasses all taste. Dharma has a taste, right? It's not a taste that you have through your mouth. Sabba rating dhamma rating jinati. The delight in Dhamma surpasses all delight. That means rati. There's a liking towards the Dhamma. That liking is the highest liking. I mean, it's not into attachment, but you simply have a liking. I already actually shared with you, there are likes and dislikes that are okay, but when you develop your likes and dislikes into higher levels, then problems occur, like lobha dosa and abhijja vyapada rise. But simple likings are okay as long as you are on the path. Tanhakkayo sabba dukkhan jinati. The destruction of craving conquers all suffering. Dukkha. Okay, that's enough about the different nature of and sort of characteristics of tanha. So craving in this way is a strong liking towards anything. And if we take a look at of kama, bhava and vibhava tanhas as well, because we had to talk about those things too. Now, kama tanha not only includes sensual desires, but also it includes other related inherent, I would say, akusalas. Now, if you take a look at of lobha in the Abhidhamma, it is also said that ditti and mana, which means view and what you call measuring, are also part of lobha. Now, how it can happen? For example, if you have views, I mean, people have different views about politics, society, world, and different views. I mean, views are okay, but as long as you are having some aditi, right view. So, view is something you are making true lobha. Whenever you attach, whenever you have a lobha towards your view, actually, views of a lot of people, they are attached to lobha because they are very adamant about what they hold. They think that what they hold is true all the time. The Buddha says it is a higher level of lobha. Okay, so when we say kama tanha, it is not only craving for sensual object, it is also craving for different other things attached to lobha. So how about bhava tanha? Now when we talk about bhava tanha has an identity. Now, those of them who want to be reborn in a Deva world, in a heaven, in a Brahma place, in a different other places, they want to think that they have an identity, so they want to keep that consistent. So you're having a lot of troubles with your identity, right? So Bhavatanha, I mean, craving for becoming includes creating a very strong identity about you. I mean, especially for a future life. That's why I always encourage people to think about don't think about what will happen next, rather than thinking about the afterlife. Think about whether you understand what you are supposed to do, and then have a solemn wish that you want to be a sotapan. At least you want to be a sotapana person before you die. That is more important than thinking about a good future life, because you have to understand even that good future life also subject to anicca dukkha anatta. We have number of examples where the devas, the deities, when they finished their time in heavens, they were reborn in hell, because karma is that terrible. It's a kind of a terrible thing. We can never trust how the karma works, right? So don't take a chance. Always try to uh, wish that I want to finish my sansara within this life. That is the great thought. Even when you die, the moment you die, just think about, I want to end my samsara. That is a that is the highest way of thinking about life, because that has anicca dukkha anatta mentality in it. Okay, so let's talk about the cessation of tanha after I answer this question. What can we say about tanha for ending suffering? Actually, the cause of suffering is tanha. So, Tanha is not arising as a new thing when we talk about the ending of suffering. Now, Dukkha is Tanha actually, because you have Tanha, then it creates Dukkha, right? So, it is connected. Especially for people who are newer to Buddhism, I feel that the attraction to learn it is to end suffering, but this is a craving in itself? Well, that's a very good question. I want to say in Buddhism, there is a mental factor called chanda. That is why I always encourage people to read Abhidhamma a little bit. In Abhidhamma, the Buddha says there are seven mental factors and then six what you call particular mental factors that are working with the chittas, consciousness types. Chanda is one of them. Chanda is one of the particular chetasikas. Chetasika means mental factor. So, if someone wants to end suffering, it is not going to be not going to always be a craving. It is just a chanda, just a wish, a good wish, right? So that is why the Buddha says chanda can be moral or immoral. It can be kusala or kusala. Some people they have chanda for bad things. I mean, if you take that example to this question, yes, someone might be overly attached to even the teachings of the Buddha, overly attached to the concepts. But Buddha says, do not attach to anything, even to Dhamma. What if somebody has an honest wish without attaching to what it is? I want to end the suffering. That's it. How I can end the suffering is I can follow the Noble Eightfold Path. That's it. I'm not even attaching to the Eightfold Noble Eightfold Path. Right? So it is a simple wish, at the same time, a simple liking towards the good thing. But even though you are liking it in a wholesome way, you should not attach to it. So this is how we're gonna separate out uh, a strong desire about something and a desire, wholesome desire. So there's a wholesome desire and unwholesome desire. So this is what we can treat as a wholesome desire. So chanda, it is translated as a desire, uh, but some people say it is liking. So there are likings that are wholesome. Even though the likings are wholesome, you should not attach to the liking. You simply want to start from somewhere and then to continue your path to end the suffering. So I don't think it is bad. So it is just a simple understanding. This is how I want to actually do my process. I want to do my ending process of the karma. But I should not attach to that thing too, right? Now, for example, the Buddha always emphasizes do not attach to anything, even to Dhamma. I want to reiterate this sutta, Alagaddupama Sutta Majjhima Nikaya. In this sutta, I think a lot of people read Dhamma without reading this sutta. In this sutta, Buddha clearly mentions learning Dhamma is like catching a snake. Okay, it's like I don't know. I mean, how many people like to think about like learning Dhamma is like catching a snake? We don't like snakes all the time, especially when you want to catch a snake. It's really dangerous activity. You shouldn't do that unless you are a experienced snake catcher. So a lot of people try to catch the snake in the wrong place, and then what happens? The snake bites you. This is what happens to many people. They want to read Dhamma from a wrong place, and then what happens? The Dhamma itself can harm you. It is not because Dhamma is bad, it is because you are trying to learn Dhamma from a place that you are not supposed to learn the Dhamma. That is why it is always encouraged to uh, contact a teacher, right? Contact a good Dhamma teacher. So that's very good. So in the same sutta, Alagaddupama Sutta, Buddha says, Kullupamangu bhikkhave dhamma desissami. Monks, I am telling you, my Dhamma, I want to give you a simile to my Dhamma, learning Dhamma. So this learning Dhamma is like is likened to a raft. Suppose there is a man who is going on a trip And then he, at that time, there was no GPS and all that. And he suddenly finds there is a river. He can cross the river just without anything. And then he goes back to the jungle forest, and then he makes a raft, and then he used the raft, and then uses the raft, then he crossed the river. And then the Buddha asks another question from the monk. What if the man thinks that I made this raft with so many difficulties going to the forest back again? So I should not leave it. I want to keep it. I want to put it on my head, and then I want to bring that wherever I go. Is it necessary? The monk said, no. That was just to cross the river. And then the Buddha said, in the same way, I tell you to treat the Dhamma as a raft. So how can I say that I treat the Dhamma as a raft? You use it only to cross it. So don't attach to Dhamma as well. What about the bad things? What about the akusalas? Okay. So Dhamma is a raft. So we only learn what we are supposed to learn. While we're learning, we don't attach to even Dhamma. We just learn it, that's it. Because Dhamma is also a concept, right? Because the language is always giving us a hard time. We only need to understand Dhamma with our personal understanding, personal experiences. Once we know it, then that's it. We don't need to overly attach to Dhamma also. Thank you, Vanessa. Yeah, please read mental factors. There are 52 mental factors, and there are 13 mental factors where we see the two, what you call by neutral mental factor, 13 neutral mental factors. In it, we can see there are two types of mental factors, what you call universal mental factors that are always happening with all the chittas, consciousness types, and there are 6 particular chetasikas that are only appearing in certain chittas. So chanda is one of them. Chanda is not appearing in all the thought. That's what I'm saying. It is a special kind of a mental factor. It can be good, it can be bad, it can be kusala, it can be akusala. That is interesting. Okay, so please post other questions while I'm finishing up. What is the cessation of Tanha? Let me read this one. Idankopana bhikkave dukkha nirodhan ariya satchan yo tassāeva tanhāya asesa viraga nirodho chāgo patinissaggo mutti anālayo. Now this is given in the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, Samyutta Nikāya 56.11. Monks, there is a noble truth about the cessation of suffering, dukkha. It is the complete fading away. Asesa viraga nirodho, cessation of this craving, its abandonment, chago, and patinissaggo, relinquishment. So these are the words that are used to talk about the cessation. It has to be a cessation which has the other roles like abandoning, relinquishing, and getting free, mutti, and analayo, independent, being independent of it. So, which means tanha is what always binds us to all these issues. So, understanding tanha from the level of patisamuppada, from the context of patisamuppada, helps us to focus on how the other types of tanha cravings arise. That is why I call Tanha, the 8 linked nidana of Patisamuppada is the process, how the craving is being processed. But if you take a look at of the Tanha in the Four Noble Truths, it is the constructed version of Tanha. It is like Sankhara in the Patisamuppada and the Sankhara in the 5 aggregates. Now, the Sankhara in the Patisamuppada, what is called by karmic formations or bodhisattva formations, it is the process of how you create sankhara. But if we take sankhara in the 5 aggregates, it is the constructed It is a finished version of sankhara. Now you already made it. So in other words, we can say the process and an example. In the same way, Tanha, craving in the Patisamuppada, which appears because of Vedana, right? And we discussed this Vedana feelings. It is clearly given that Vedana creates Tanha and then Tanha creates Upada, because it is like that you are going to buy stuff and then you are not yet checking them out. So checking them out is like Upada, right? But I know there are people who want to just put the stuff back again in the shelf. But anyways, uh, so what we had to understand is Tanha, craving in the Patisamuppada context, only tells us how we create Tanha. When we create a Tanha, that is what we can see in the Kama Tanha, Bhava Tanha, Vibhava Tanha. Okay? So what we have to do is we have to take care of our Rupas, Saddhas, Gandhas, Rasas, Pottabhas, and Dhammas. Sights, we always get to see sights. Do we see our sights with Anicca Dukkha Anatta? Do we see our sounds with Anicca Dukkha Anatta? Do we see our smells with Anicca Dukkha Anatta? Do we see our taste with Anicca Dukkha Anatta? Do we see our contact with Anicca Dukkha Anatta? Do we see our thoughts with Anicca Dukkha Anatta? No, we don't always do that. Whenever we see a person we like, oh, he is not anicca, changing. He is not changing. She is not changing. She is not dukkha. He is not dukkha. And I cannot say that there is anatta with this person because I'm really with this person. Well, I mean, conventionally, yes, but ultimately it is not the truth. One day we have to leave. Even we have to leave our bodies too, right? Don't talk about other people. We have to leave our bodies to our Bhavanga Vijnana exits one day from the body. Anyways, that is a cessation. Okay. Okay. Any more questions, Dhamma folks? Otherwise, I can summarize a little bit. Today, we've been discussing Tanha, craving. So I wanted to sort of summarize this way. How does Tanha arise in the Parisampada? The Buddha says Tanha arises because of Vedana. The moment we have a Vedana, we feel something. Be that a good one, I would say pleasant feeling, Sukha Vedana, or I would say unpleasant feeling, painful feeling, Dukkha Vedana, or a uh, or adukka masuka vedana. Some people call it pikha. I would say neutral vedana, neutral feeling. That is the place where we create tanha. The moment we, okay, for example, let's say I like someone. The moment that I think and I feel about this thing, I create tanha. What about I dislike someone? The moment I give the signal, the green light to this thought, okay, I dislike this person. And then I feel it, and then I'm creating a tanha, even for the dislike, likes and dislikes. Okay, so even though you don't have any pleasant or painful state of mind, even though you are making neutral vedanas, uh, you have a feeling, you have a sort of feeling, you know. So then tanha arises, craving arises, because you're giving validations, you are validating, you are empowering your vedana so that you are having tanha. Now, let's take back that example. You are in a shopping spree and then you are putting stuff into your shopping cart, right? And you have likes, right? You have likes about these stuff that are in the shopping cart, but you haven't checked them out, right? So once you check them out, I'm not saying that you can't do shopping, but I'm just giving an example. So once you check them out, that means you have taken them so seriously. That is upadana. So what we can do is we have to take care of our feelings very well. So, I mean, once tanha arises in you, that means you haven't managed your vedanas well, feelings well. If somebody asks me how to take care of my tanha, the easiest way to take care of your tanha is to take care of your vedanas. Because once you take care of your feelings, tanha will not arise that strong. Because you know that this feeling is anicca, this feeling is impermanent, right? This feeling is dissatisfactory, giving dissatisfaction, unsatisfactory. And I should not treat this feeling as I, me, myself. I don't see any ownership, right? And when you have these attitudes towards your feelings, then you are not creating that much tanha. That is the easiest way. What if that you already have tanha, kama tanha, I would say different craving types for different, ayatanas, internal and external, then even you can bring back those three mentalities, attitudes towards those tanhas, towards those things. I would say you can bring that the objects and my senses, they are subject to impermanence, dissatisfaction, and no ownership. That's it. So this is the worst case scenario. I mean, if you can take care of your feelings well, vedanas well, then you are good. But let's say if you are going through dealing with the worst case scenario, that means you have a lot of kama tanha at this point, you have a lot of bhava tanhas at this point. Let's say if you don't believe the next life, if you are not a Buddhist, then you might not believing. So at that point, what you have to do is you have to still bring back or bring those three attitudes, three mentality perspectives towards your internal and external senses. Okay, Bhante, saying creating tanha. So tanha can be avoided since we have I. We just have to be mindful. Yeah, I already explained that we cannot go away from the world, the internal and external world, because the world is always a place for karmas. So what we have to do is we have to bring wise attention, yoniso manasikara. So when we bring yoniso manasikara, we are mindful because we know where to focus our attention on, right? That is mindfulness. So yoniso manasikara and chatusatipatthana, chattari satipatthana, right? Chattaru satipatthana, which means yoniso manasikara and the four satipatthanas are what helps us to not to be uh, stuck in the vedana. So if you take care of your vedana, so you are dealing with your tanha really well because you are not having that much tanha. Let's say if you have a lot of tanha, then you can still bring anicca dukkha anatta nature towards your 12 ayatanas. Any other questions? Okay, looks like there are no more questions. So let's wrap this up by sharing good karmas with the departed people and the deities. May all the good karmas be transferred to all the departed relatives who passed away in the name of all of us. Be them your parents, your family members, other people. So may all the good karmas be transferred to them. At the same time, may departed relatives be happy and peaceful. May they attain the supreme nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Idammi nyati nang hotu sukita huntu nyatiyo. Idammi nyati nang hotu sukita huntu nyatiyo. Idammi nyati nang hotu sukita huntu nyatiyo. May all the good karmas be shared by all the devas and nagas. May they be happy and peaceful. May they bless all of you for all the good things, good health, quality of your life, prosperity. May the devas and nagas also attain supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Ittavata cha ammehi sambatang punya sampadang. Sabbe deva anumodantu. Sabbe bhuta anumodantu. Sabbe satta anumodantu. Sabba sampatti siddhya. Akasattha cha bummatha devanaga mahitika. Punyantang anumoditva chiran rakhantu sasana. Chiran rakhantu desana. Chiran rakhantu mang paranti. Sam, I think I have another question from you. YouTube. Is that reason why some teacher go into forest to train? Well, it is not like always mandatory, but for teachers, for monastic teachers, it might be a good plan. But you as a person who is living in a secular life, you can practice Yoniso Manasikara and Satipatthanas for Satipatthanas, uh, being a layperson. So it is not trying to run away from the lay life. So you, because there were a lot of people, a lot of individuals who became, you know, Sotapannas, Sakadagamins, Anagamis, and Arahants. Even they spending a lay life. They were married to each other. They're having kids, but still they are practicing their Dhamma. But if you really, if you are more serious, if you want to speed up the process, you could try out to be a monastic or go to an empty place to do it. But I don't think it's necessary. It's not mandatory. Okay, so let's make a great wish. May all the good karmas we've been accumulating in all these ways be helpful for all of us to attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. I'm going to be blessing you with a couple more stanzas. Please receive the blessings. Abhivadana siddhis nichang bandha pachayino chataru dhamma vadhanti ayuvannu sukhang balan ayurarogya sampatti sangha sampatti mevacha ato nibbana sampatti iminati samekunchatu. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, I have an announcement as well. You all know that I'll be interviewing a professor tomorrow. It's going to be at 3 p.m. Eastern Time and 12 p.m. Pacific Time. So the topic for interview is going to be an interesting one. Philosophy as medicine, the Buddha and Socrates, with a professor from UBC Vancouver, Professor Michael Griffin. So if you have time, please stay tuned. This is gonna be a time early morning, probably early morning for many in Asia. I guess it's gonna be 3 a.m. in Malaysia, 3 a.m. in Singapore, and I guess it's gonna be 4 a.m. in Japan. So you can watch the recorded talk interview after. So don't worry about it. Okay, so have a very good morning for those folks in Asia, and have a very good evening for those of them who join from here. Thank you. Take care. Have a good night.